What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. You guys should have seen we've put in a little bit of work yesterday to pull out the transmission from my brother's car. The Exetti Stage 1 organic replacement clutch probably has been in here since the 8th gen Civic that we pulled his engine from, and by the looks of it, that clutch was on its way out. So I ordered a Action Stage 5 clutch the other day, and this came in super quick. The Stage 5 is typically like the Stage 3, which is what I have in that car, which is what I have in that car, but the Stage 5 has the heavy duty pressure plate, more clamping force for more torque. I am going to be doing the clutch in this video, but I'm going to do it a little bit later, only because I'm realizing now that I actually have a lot of space to swap out my brother's steering rack. When I first did the K-swap in this car, I had to remove the power steering setup because obviously we have no room for a power steering setup, and we don't have an electrical power steering setup. I had looped the power steering unit down there, and over time it kind of just wore itself out, and the steering has 2 inches of left and right play before the wheel even moves. That's actually worse than my wagon. It's about 4 o'clock. I'm gonna get right to it. I gotta dig out wherever his new steering rack is at because it has been sitting for about 5 years. It's brand new in the box. Let's get it. Let's get down to work. So this has been sitting for a long time. Apparently it's a reman, and it came from O'Reilly's. 5 years ago, I guess my brother ordered this from there, and it kind of just sat since. Now the box feels really light, and I hope that this is not a power steering unit, just so we don't have to deal with losing power steering again like the one that's in the car. And there's no outer rods. A manual rack. Okay, inner rods, bellow, Gucci potatoes. Now these are OEM, but these boots look no sort of cracks whatsoever. It's kind of weird. I put the nut back on the threads just so I don't miss, and I gave it a good old whack with my hammer. Probably 3 whacks right here, and that pops off. Look at that. This thing is limping. But be sure to break off these lock nuts before you do, so that way it's not a struggle to loosen this up, because all this turns with it. Removing the outer rods makes it easier to remove the rack out of the subframe. If I'm being completely honest with you guys, I've been sleeping at like 4 or 5 in the morning, and I wake up very, very late in the afternoon, which is why we lose daylight so quickly. But we're putting in the work nonetheless.
Accessories including docks, monitors, and more.
I was underneath here yesterday, and man, there was a lot of spiders. One went down my armpit. That was not fun. Oh wow, this thing wasn't even tight. Oh wow, this one wasn't either. So you push the driver's side rod all the way in, tilt the arm all the way up. That should allow enough play to get the steering joint out of the subframe and the steering column. And then you just slide it on out of here. Oh, will you look at that? Oh, you look at that. Buddy, I'm gonna close my eyes and you better disappear, because it ain't gonna look good for you. So I got the power steering rack taken out right here, and I'm noticing that the body of the power steering one is a lot larger than the non-power steering rack. So I'm gonna need a different bushing and a bracket to fit this onto the subframe. But as far as everything else goes, mounting points, the length looks about the same, and I got to figure out something with this before I can even put it back into the car, or even put it in the car to see what I can modify to get it to work. We'll figure it out. So guys, Action Stage 5 clutch and flywheel combo. The Stage 5 is like the Stage 3 with the 6-puck, except we have a heavy duty pressure plate right here. But big shout out again to Action Clutch for helping me out here on the build. I really like their clutches because the sprung gives you a much softer feeling, right? The springs here in the disc, and the fact that it has a plate on it, because I've had issues before where I've ran these and then they start breaking out of the cage and then make all kind of noise here inside the bell housing. So with this, it ensures the spring is going to stay in the place, and obviously, like I said, if you're full hydro, it's going to give you a much softer clutch feel with the springs helping the, you know, the whole entire system here. Clutch alignment tool with pilot bushing. We have the release bearing, some stickers, and this one's new. This one is pretty cool. I do have the other Action sticker. You can see it right there on my car. I'm gonna go ahead and get these installed into the car. I don't have any ARP hardware, but all of my cars have been using the factory hardware without any issues, so I'm gonna reuse what came off the car. All right guys, so Action Stage 5 clutch is on with the new flywheel. This should hold some power down and some launches. I've had the 6-puck in my CRX. I made about 350, and I've done plenty of launches, plenty of driving on it before I upgraded to the twin disc when it made 490. But this right here should be suitable for the supercharger. My brother's not looking to make a lot of power, so the heavy duty pressure plate is definitely going to hold down some clamping pressure, and we're ready to put the transmission back on. Go ahead and just clean my tools up here real quick and start fresh again. So the back of the transmission right here under the subframe, this hits the steering rack mounting point right here. That prevents me from tilting the engine back to get the axle angle much more straighter. It does straighten up a little bit, but I don't want this to be touching the tab. So what I'm going to do is, whether I make a new mount or not, or keep it in the same position or not, I am going to notch this out just to give me extra clearance. And it seems to be all empty back here because that is literally on a motor mount bolt hole, so it goes in pretty deep. I just gotta notch it off and then flap disc it or something. Let's cut that real quick. Sorry for the dryer noise back there. My brother's doing his laundry and his shoes. But we got the back of the transmission notched. We used a grinder cut off disc, cut in different angles, and then we used a flap disc to get that little U shape, so I didn't have to like cut a whole bunch here, right? So all I'm trying to do is get this transmission back into the car and pretty much leave it at that. I did do some testing with the motor mounts yesterday, so I'll show you guys that when we get to it. I may not have to make a new rear mount, but probably going to have to make a new front mount. But other than that, let's get the release bearing on and then get this transmission back into the car. So right now I'm trying my best to use 2 jacks instead of my back, and this is how I got it off. Hopefully it goes up the same way. Okay, and that was easy. So I want to show you guys the rear mount I made for my brother's car back in 2017 when there was no all-wheel drive kit for a K-Swap EF. So this weird 90 leg right here connects from the back of the block into the transmission, these two right here, and that's the only 2 bolts that's connected on the engine before it connects to the mount that goes to the rear bracket that sits on the subframe. The EFK1 motor mount separates into 2 pieces, and I took this top half with the bolts to make that, just to reuse this. A lot of people are breaking the tabs on the back of their block because the kit that's in the market now only bolts to the block, and with all-wheel drive turbo, a lot of these guys are putting a lot of power through it. It's going to torque back, and it's not enough strength back there to hold up, so it typically cracks all of this, and it cracks right here at the bottom as well. But my mount mounts on this one, and then one more down low to the transmission, so it is tied all in together. So if you look, center of the motor mount, give or take, the hole is offsetted, and because we dropped the engine 1 inch, I was playing with it yesterday that if I flip this upside down, I forgot which way it was, but upside down, it'll give me that extra height to bolt up to the rear mount using the current bracket that I made. My flashlight also ran out of battery, so hopefully you guys can see this. I'm gonna try with the bigger end hanging downward, see if that'll line up with the holes. The jack is on the transfer case right now, and I'm gonna try to zoom in because I don't have any light. That notch that I did cleared a lot. That's like at least ½ an inch right there. Once I take off the jack, the engine is gonna sag down a little bit, so I know for sure it's not gonna be like rubbing each other. But I don't know if you guys can see it. The hole is I don't know which way it is, but it's pretty, I can't see it my damn self. It's pretty close. It's pretty close. Pretty solid. So you can see right here, the steering rack mount is into the transmission about pretty much all that I grinded off, but there is a gap. I can see it from the top. Let me try to zoom it in. There's a gap there, so I know it's not going to touch, and because we see that the mount is in the transmission, that means the engine did rock back. Hopefully we get some better axle angle. It doesn't look as angled as it did before, but a little bit is better than none, right? So yeah, pretty much everything is back on the car. Let me do a little bolt check real quick. So this is all the bolt that I collected in the cup. This, that, this, these two, and these two. These are all bumper. This was the half shaft, which I don't remember putting a short one like this, so I took the short one out, put a long one in. I did all new cotter pin. No more bolts. That means everything we took off is back on the engine. And trust me when I say that, I didn't throw any in the bush this time. So yeah, pretty much everything here is done. New clutch is installed, and new steering rack is installed as well too. I think that's all I'm going to do for tonight. I am going to wrap it up. The bumper is going to stay off because I have access to make a new front motor mount. I'm going to have to use the one that pulled off and just make a new one probably tomorrow. But as far as this goes, I have the speed sensor out because I need to go buy fluid to put in the trans tomorrow. The car has a dead battery, so we need a new battery anyways. I can't really turn it on for you guys. I want to redo the feed line. This is a one line feed return system where it comes out of the firewall right into the regulator and then one to the fuel rail, where typically when you're making power and stuff like that, I believe it's just what I read, I'm not entirely sure if this is true, when you start making power you don't want a like returnless system, I think it's called. I'm not 100% sure, but we want to be able to get the feed into the rail and then the rail back to the regulator, not feed into the regulator and then one in. So what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna take this off, and then I'm gonna mount this 90 female end to the firewall. So it's gonna go like that, and then the fuel filter is gonna sit here, and then I'm gonna take this fitting, these two right here, I'm gonna make it much longer. So it's gonna go from the filter, which sits right here, it's gonna go around, loop here, it's gonna tie in together like that, and then it's gonna go underneath the fuel rail and to this fitting right here. I need to figure out what this is and then convert it over to a -6 and then have a 90 off of that to go along this one. I can't run it here because it's right in the way of this like idler pulley mount, and I can't get a fitting in between that. So I got to do the fuel system again, and then obviously change the pulley out, get the injectors off to get them cleaned, and then this thing should be ready for the dyno. But there's a lot to do before the dyno, but I can tell you we are close. Tonight I'm going to order all of the brake lines, the rotors, the brake pads, everything that my brother wants. Probably going to swap out the master too, kind of, I guess, to kind of help with the braking power of this car, and we'll do all that when those show up. But as far as tonight goes, I am going to wrap it up right here. I hope you guys enjoy this progress update on my brother's car, and if you did, be sure to hit the like button. And if you guys want to pick up a clutch for your vehicle, doesn't matter what make and model, Action Clutch has a wide variety for any make and model and power levels. Be sure to hit the link in the description below. Check out the website, find a clutch, and before you guys check out, use discount code STATIC to save yourself 10%. But so if you guys want to stick around to see more progress update on my brother's car, be sure to hit the subscribe button. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.